Interesting stories. Interesting people. Welcome to the Humble Badger Podcast.
Thank you for listening to this podcast today. Remember to like and follow us at The Humble Badger on Twitter and Facebook, or at The Humble Badger Podcast on Instagram. This episode is brought to you with the help of our promotional partners at the Studio Paint Bar. It's an excellent venue located in the heart of Port Credit. You can visit them at thestudiopaintbar.ca. They have paint nights and classes and a whole lot of fun events. So check it out at thestudiopaintbar.ca. My name is Pablo Dawson, and I am your host for this episode of the Humble Badger Podcast. As usual, we always start off with something random. This random question comes to us online. What do you consider to be the greatest movie cliffhanger of all time? And so I looked this up thanks to our friends here at Digital Spy. There was a number of things that they put, for example, The Hunger Games, Matrix Reloaded, The Planet of the Apes, which I think maybe in the grand scheme of things is probably the greatest cliffhanger. But for me personally, my greatest cliffhanger of all time in a movie has to be Star Wars, specifically The Empire Strikes Back, where they reveal that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. And if you didn't know that, I'm really sorry.
Spoilers, yo.
That's right, exactly. Spoiler alert, I should have started off with that.
Yeah.
What about my co-host? What does my co-host think?
My favorite cliffhanger in movies is actually the underrated classic, The Mario Brothers.
Is this
No, there was a post-credit scene teasing more, and
I didn't even know there was a movie called The Mario Brothers.
John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins.
Oh, that sounds Oscar-worthy.
It's just as terrible as you think.
I could imagine. I would imagine. And by the way, since my co-host forgot, he is a cartoonist and a singer. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Hio Del Guapo. You can call me Chris.
That's right. It's much easier to call you Chris.
Yes.
Which we do. Our guest today also has, I think, some idea about cliffhangers, probably because he has an opinion on everything. And his name is also Clif. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, yo, what's up? It's Cliff Knight. Indeed, I do have an opinion on everything. And this is one of the main ways that I am force-feeding your brain to hear my opinion on everything. I'm basically the new you, too. That's what's up. I don't know. I don't know a whole lot of cliffhangers. One of my favorites is one that people don't expect. It's the end of X-Men 3, I believe, where... There's the vaccine. Is that 3 or 2?
I don't
believe it's
remember
3.
The third one. Yeah.
It's the third one, where it's the vaccine that cures your mutant powers, and then who's it? Magneto gets stuffed full of them. But at the very the post-credit scene that shows that he has a little bit of it left, and he's one of the most powerful mutants of all time. And then they never come back to it, ever. They replace him entirely. In fact, yeah.
Well, I was debating whether it's The Empire Strikes Back or The Usual Suspects with the controversial Kevin Spacey. What do you think was a bigger cliffhanger?
I don't know if either one of those are cliffhangers. They're reveals.
Yeah, I guess.
They're reveals. There's more to the story, but I don't know if that really
The Empire Strikes Back was more of a cliffhanger, though.
Is it?
Yeah, because throughout you wonder who Darth Vader is and who he really is, and they do tease that out.
I must have had to been alive for it. Because I knew that Vader was Luke's father before I watched him.
Spoilers,
it was a meme. It was a meme before memes, you know? And then I watched the movie. My brother is way older, so he was freaking out about it. No, I still feel like it's just a reveal. It's not exactly cliffhanger because it doesn't tease more to come. Yeah. It just reveals something that you were waiting for.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I guess it's who's there to define exactly what is a cliffhanger.
The Oxford Dictionary, I think, is
the Oxford Dictionary. Yeah. We'll go with that.
What about the classic Stallone action movie Cliffhanger?
Cliffhanger actually has no cliffhangers in it,
which has no cliffhanger,
except for the part where he's hanging off a cliff.
That's not even technically a cliff. He's on an elevated glacier. If we're going to be precise about this,
technical about.
I said I have an opinion. You are going to hear it. Okay.
And part of the reason Cliff Knight has an opinion on everything is you are a stand-up comedian. Tell the people where you have performed, where you are going to perform, and how did you get into comedy?
Oh, this is a lot of story. I've performed. I try to say I've performed a lot of places. Most of the GTA, a little bit of Montreal, New York, Boston. Some in the UK. Trying to go back. The Caribbean, of course. You're gonna find me here in Toronto. That's where I do shows. Literally every night, you can find me at a comedy show. Follow me at Cliff Knight Comic, and you'll be able to see where I am and stalk me down to the minute. Buy me shawarma, of course.
He's in Mississauga. He's in the right place
I'm
for
in Mississauga
shawarma.
right now. You'll take me to Osmos, please.
That's right.
Osmos, run me my money, please. I got into comedy. I used to live here in Mississauga, and then I moved out to Toronto. And whenever I move to a new neighborhood, I do this thing where I go jogging to try and get my bearings for the neighborhood. Make sure people see a tall black man running through their neighborhood and not assume that it's crime. They see that it's for fitness. I'm doing that for.
You probably shouldn't have worn that ski mask.
Listen,
right?
That's what I'm saying. It was expensive to keep up the image.
That's
all
right.
And then I was living in Cabbagetown, and I was jogging, and I got lost, like major lost. And it's years later I realized that I wound up, like I was in Cabbagetown, which is like Bloor and Parliament, and I found myself all the way over at like Queen and University. Like it was far.
Yeah,
like,
that's nowhere near that.
And I got super lost.
It's like 2 hours later.
No, I'm tall. I can run fast. You wouldn't know much
long
about
legs.
that.
Is that the secret? Yeah.
And I stopped. I was asking a guy for directions, just a dude having a cigarette. And I turned around, I looked in the window, and I saw someone on stage. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, this is a comedy club. And it turns out I was at a club called The Corner, and I was talking to the owner. And he was like, are you a comic? And I'm like, no. And he's like, come back on Monday. And then I've been doing comedy. And of course,
He just assumed you were funny?
He was just like, I feel like it's that sort of thing.
running.
Like, yeah.
He saw him
me
running?
Yeah.
If he runs like Phoebe from Friends.
If I was a comedy club owner, I'd constantly invite people to come to my bar that has comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether I'm
as a member of the audience, not to perform.
Well, no, it's just like come back, you know. He assumed I didn't have any money, I suppose. So that was about right.
Come back and perform. It'll pay your way.
Yeah, no, it won't. But yeah, that's just, and of course that first show is like it was terrible. Like I practiced for 2 weeks before I went back.
Yeah.
And then it was terrible. I mean, I just kept doing it, you know, and I'm still terrible. So I suppose.
No, he's not. He's not at all.
It was how it goes.
So I know, like, obviously as a comedian, you know, the hardest part is coming up with new material all the time and workshopping and all that. So being that you have an opinion on everything, how does your, how do you keep up with like your general knowledge of like the world at large, and how does that affect your writing process?
It's pretty different, actually. I don't have a problem coming up with new material. This is, I mean, I don't know how it is for different comics. I write new jokes every single day.
Yeah.
Not all of them are good jokes.
Right.
That's the other thing. Not a lot of them will make it to the stage.
Be winners, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can't all be winners, but that's the point. That's why you write every day, is because if you only write for an hour on Friday, you only have that much chance to actually put out something good.
Right.
But if I write for 10 minutes every single day, which is kind of close to what I do, 10 minutes to half an hour, whenever I was like, oh, that joke is here, or I want to work on this particular thing, that gives me way more opportunity to come out with something good. Like I come up with like one good joke for like every 30. You know what I mean?
Still good rate, actually.
Is it?
No, but you know, like this is the thing as a former stand-up comedian myself. I mean, that I agree with Cliff. This is one thing that a lot of people do not understand about how much work goes into that 7-minute routine or 5-minute routine. They don't understand, because he's right that there's no shortage of material, especially in today's world, and especially
right
with
now.
social media.
Jeez, there's so much.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, you do have to refine it, because they're not, forget not all winners. Nothing starts off as a joke. I mean, you have to have that comedian's mind to look at even outrageous situations and then, you know, to find the humor in it. And it takes a while to refine that. And it uses a lot of brain power, which leads me into your to my next question. Yeah. When you've been writing and using your brain like this all day, how do you unwind?
Oh, I'm so exhausted, man. I'm so exhausted.
He's going to fall asleep right here. Right?
I really am. Like, I drove here. It wasn't a far drive, but yeah, you're right, because now your passion becomes your work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there'll be times I'll watch comedy on Netflix or something, and I was like, oh, I should enjoy this, but I don't.
Because you're looking at it from a
I'm
technical
looking at
standpoint.
it from like my own like professional point of view, and I'm like, oh, this person's funny, but I don't like them for this reason or that reason or any other thing, and it's just like, oh, now that's not exciting. No, I sit down, I play a little bit of video games. You know, I have pets, I play with them.
What kind of pets do you have?
I have 2 cats and a dog, and they all have Instagram accounts.
They all have Instagram.
Go follow at Mimi the God. He is so funny. One of the ways I do wind down actually is I recently took up TikTok, so I make some videos on there, and that is actually pretty refreshing because it's a whole new format. Some of the videos are hard, and that's like a whole new challenge too. But as well, no, I make food at home. You know, I'm a human being. 0110011. Yeah, I go outside.
Hey, you'd be surprised how many people don't understand that concept.
It's tough. Yeah. It's tough convincing people to live their life. Actually,
yeah. A lot of people forget to be human. You know, and like to be serious for a moment. Like it is something that is so easy in today's world to just work constantly, especially when you're in entertainment. Yeah, and it's all around
for
you.
Sure. Just push yourself until
Well, I mean, that's the thing that everybody tells you. Immerse yourself and then you'll become good. And sure, it's true, but it's like there's a way to take it too far.
Well, you need that moment to reconnect to
who you actually are. And I was that person. Like I was going deep for like the first 2 years of comedy and not being funny. And you're like, oh, what is happening? And then it was until I had fainted on the train. I was working a contract in Mississauga. I blame Mississauga for this.
It was too much shawarma.
Yeah.
You had lots of osmos.
It really was. It really was a lot of shawarma. And yeah, I was going on my way home and I fainted on the train because I had it wasn't really a cardiac problem or whatever. And then that really was just like, yeah, I need to take a step back a little bit. And ironically got deeper into comedy because like I was working at that time and I was like, okay, no, I can go at any moment. So I went to Just for Laughs, walk around. I went to Edinburgh. I came back. I went to Boston and I went to New York shortly after that, Thunder Bay, all these things. And I discovered that my favorite part of doing comedy is the travel, is going somewhere else and finding out, hey, what do they eat there? You know, what is the thing that everybody hates? Like here it's the TTC, but over there it's that bell in the morning or some nonsense, you know.
Edinburgh?
Yeah. The cannons? Oh my God, the cannons.
Okay, so now this segment is sure to wake you up. It's rapid fire. Are you ready, Chris?
I am ready.
And are you ready, Cliff? He's ready.
He's locked and loaded. All right.
Locked and loaded. Let's go.
Let's start with, what's the lamest dessert that people try to pass off as dessert?
Fortune cookie.
People pass off fortune cookies as dessert?
Listen, give me some actual chocolate or something. I'll even take the mint with the chocolate in it. The fortune cookie is one of the worst. And this is the other problem with comedy is I just have all of these other comedians' jokes calling back to certain opinions that I also hold. No, fortune cookie. One time I did try to eat it as a dessert, and I was supremely disappointed.
Yeah. Somebody once told me that you have to have a little bit of the fortune cookie for your fortune to come true. And I don't know how true that superstition is, but I eat it and I agree with Cliff. It's a
Crush
terrible
it up
dessert.
and put it in water. That's what you got to do.
It's a cookie.
Okay, so the next question on rapid fire. What is the strangest thing you've ever eaten?
The strangest thing that I've ever eaten, if we're talking like strange, it has to be iguana.
You've eaten iguana?
Iguana meat is a very big thing back in South America. A lot of people have it. Yeah, it's not a thing here. No, obviously, the iguanas don't have passports. Can't make it.
I'm happy to try iguana. I'm happy to try lots.
It's pretty
of things,
good.
Though.
It's pretty good curry chicken. It is. Yeah.
Cool.
Wow, that is. Oh man, that's speaking of food, what's your favorite carb? Bread, pasta, rice, or potatoes?
Interesting. Or I guess carb. I'm going to include. This is odd. Those Hawaiian breads. The sweet bread.
King rolls.
Yeah, there we go. We used to make one that had way more sugar than the stuff you get here, and my brother would basically like condense like 6 of them into a single little ball, and then just and choke on it. Obviously,
that is.
Okay, when you fly on a plane, do you wear a neck pillow?
No. I used to, and I stopped doing it.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm buying crappy off-brand neck pillows.
No, deflate.
Dollar store
something.
neck pillows.
No, they
It's
never.
just-
I have a long neck, so 1 is not enough and 2 is too much. So maybe I need a custom neck pillow. If somebody is out there making customized neck pillows, get at me. I will be your style influencer. Screw H&M.
It's a brand partnership. The
Right.
Cliff Night travel
Cliff
neck
Night
pillow.
extra long neck pillow. Yes,
Like wear it in the front. Just keep you from
probably.
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. Well, we are now at the trivia portion. As you know, we always try and relate the trivia somewhat, in a dad joke way and punny way to the guest.
That's it.
We're going to ask you. I mean, knights is too easy, but what we're going to do is there are famous groups of knights, and we're going to ask you questions based off those famous groups of knights about the topic. Are you ready?
I got this.
Okay, and remember, trivia is not about what we know and what we don't know. It's about what we learn.
It's about what we don't know, 100%. It always is.
One of the most famous knights, knight groups is the Knights of Malta. Can you please name the capital of Malta?
Malta, the capital. So Malta's not a single place, is it? So the actual capital of Malta will be not Corsins? No, Somewhere else entirely.
The capital of Malta is its own country, and it's the capital is Valletta.
Okay.
Valletta.
Okay.
That's right.
Sounds sexy, I guess. Yeah.
It does. It does.
when you say it like this.
That's right. The Knights of Columbus, also another famous group of knights. Can you please name the name of Columbus's National Hockey League team?
Oh, wait, sorry. What?
Columbus, Ohio has
Hard
a
left.
hockey team. What is the name of the Columbus hockey team?
Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria.
I would love
We're talking about
that.
Columbus,
True.
Ohio. Yeah, but that's curious. I guess it was named after Christopher Columbus, and it's way inland, so that is weird.
People just love to name shit after people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
most
it's the
of names
Columbus
are-
Blue Jackets. That's what we're looking for.
Blue
The
Jackets.
Columbus
so
Blue
they just had
Jackets.
style. Is that it?
No, it's
think
from
it's
a
like
Civil
a-
War group.
okay.
They're fighting for the North, just so we're clear.
they can
Blue
shoot. They
Jackets.
can't play hockey.
Yeah.
They can't shoot.
Something like that. So that's all the time we have for this episode of the Humble Badger Podcast. I want to very much thank comedian Cliff Knight. You can follow him and find out more about his goings-on at cliffknight.ca or follow him at Cliff Knight Comic.
Easy.
There you go.
Cliff
And
with 1F, Night Like Roundtable. You got it.
that's
Yeah.
right.
There you go.
So take a listen to him and come and watch him at a show. You will definitely not be disappointed. Very funny, man. Thank you very much for coming on our show.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome. Mwah.
I want to thank the co-host here, Senor Hio del Guapo. I just like saying that. You can follow him at Hio del Guapo if you can figure out how to spell it on Instagram. You can also look for the tags on our posts. And thank you, Chris, for coming on, being the co-host.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And of course, we want to thank our promotional partners at the Studio Paint Bar. Visit them at thestudiopaintbar.ca and find out more about their events that are upcoming. For any inquiries from anyone about this show, please visit thehumblebadger.com for contact information or send us a message through social media. I want to thank our crew and our producer, Anthony, signing off from the Sett here at Trax Ahead Studio. My name is Pablo Dawson. Wherever you are and whatever you do, remember to follow your passion.
Thank you for tuning in to the Humble Badger Podcast. For more information, please visit thehumblebadger.com. The Humble Badger Podcast is produced by the Pablo Dawson Company. Context matters. See you next time.